Drew Brees announced as the Hall of Fame finalist. Tyler Shuck has been tearing it up with the New Orleans Saints. NFL scenarios play out as we enter into the NFL season finale. We'll talk about that and more in a moment.
A standing note for the opinionated bench warmers.
Welcome to the Opinionated Benchwarmers Podcast, episode 203. Your Opinionated Benchwarmer is back to do what we do best, and that's discuss sports. I'm your host, Rob, and we have a couple things to jump into. And we'll start off with NFL royalty. Former New Orleans Saint quarterback Drew Brees, it was announced as an NFL Hall of Famer finalist this past week. And I thought it was just important to go through what Drew Brees meant to Louisiana and the city of New Orleans on top of his resume, which was phenomenal. I mean, let's start off none other than he finished second in NFL history of all time in passing yards with 80,000 passing yards. He finished second in the NFL of all time in passing touchdowns at 571. Now, when you look at who's closest to him, it's Matthew Stafford, who's currently playing, and Aaron Rodgers, who is down the list outside of the top 10. And you have to think Aaron Rodgers will probably be hanging it up this year. Matthew Stafford, who knows how long he's going to play, especially as the Los Angeles Rams are making a Super Bowl run. Maybe he wants to hang it up if they're able to accomplish that. But needless to say, he may be sticking around at number two for a while. And it's quite remarkable considering his stature alone. He's barely 6 feet and was able to accomplish all of this. He finished his career at 67% completion percentage, which is an all-time number. I mean, needless to say, Drew Brees is an all-time great. And if you think about how his career started with New Orleans as a free agent, when he was let go as a free agent with the San Diego Chargers, formerly now known as the Los Angeles Chargers, and with that wrist injury, no one understood or could foresee whether his career would even continue. And the rest is history. I think that Drew Brees is a lock to make the NFL Hall of Fame, and I expect his name to be in Canton when it's all said and done. Now, remember, he is a finalist, so they have to go through another set of voting as we approach the Super Bowl. So they'll cut that list down from 15 as it is now to 10, and then they'll cut it down to the final seven after, and those seven will go to Canton. As we know, a couple other names that's in that list is Willie Anderson, and Eli Manning is on that list as well. I don't want to make it about them. It's all about Drew Brees and what he's meant in New Orleans. Post Katrina, New Orleans Saints franchise became relevant, none other than because of Drew Brees and what he was able to accomplish with Sean Payton and so many NFL Saints greats. But I mean, just a remarkable resume. Two-time Offensive Player of the Year, 13-time Pro Bowler over the course of his 20 seasons in the league, and he also has that Super Bowl that we just adore as New Orleans Saints fan. And back in 2010, and he was a Super Bowl MVP of that. A flawless resume, a great person, great quarterback. I think that, in my opinion, I don't see how you can keep him out of the top 10 of all time. And I can understand if you made an argument that he's top five of all time just by virtue of his stature, how accurate he was. He was just football IQ off the charts in pre-snap reads. He could fit a ball in tight windows. Made a career of 80,000 yards. Drew Brees was not that much of a deep ball passer. I wouldn't consider him a deep ball passer per se, but he was just slicing and dicing secondaries. For all my younger listeners, just go ahead and go back on YouTube and look at some of his highlights. I can't believe I'm at the age where I'm even saying that. I mean, I watched his entire career. But Drew Brees is just an all-time great, and you don't see QB play like him. And it's a reason why he had 80,000 yards. You could say system all day long in the marriage that he had with Sean Payton. But Drew Brees, again, voted in as NFL Hall of Famer finalist at this time as we're recording this. And just my prediction here, I really think that he's going to make that run and he's going to be in Canton this go around. No doubt about it. And we can't go any further. We talked about the legend and the history of the New Orleans Saints, but we got to jump into the future. Tyler Shuck, rookie quarterback out of Louisville, has been absolutely sensational. in the month of December. He's led the Saints to a 4-0 record, undefeated in December, which is historic in itself. And he really seems to be getting better week in and week out. Statistically, if you look at him right now, he's thrown for 2,125 yards. He started as our weekly starter in week 9 versus the Rams. He's throwing the ball right now. His completion percentage is 67.8%, which is where you want it. Pretty good number there. And of course, he has 9 touchdowns and he does have 5 picks, and that's going to happen as a rookie quarterback. He has not thrown a pick in 2 or 3 weeks at this point. He's very decisive with the ball. He's able to fit the ball into great pockets and fit it into tight spaces. I think that just from my eye test alone, he seems to be getting more and more comfortable in this Kellen Moore offensive system. And him and Chris Olave has really formed a bond, and they're really starting to take off as to have some great chemistry there. I'm really liking what I'm seeing from Tyler Shuck. And historically, as a Saints fan, as I've looked at it, man, the I mentioned Drew Brees, and ironically, such a remarkable career. But I think that sometimes you can be spoiled by greatness. And I think that this franchise has been spoiled. As a fan base, we've been spoiled. And there's been a real question mark at quarterback for the past 3 years. We tried the Taysom Hill experiment, didn't work due to injury. We knew Jameis Winston, he proved not to be the guy. And then we drafted Spencer Radley, and we gave him a shot in the first 8 weeks of the season. And he really showed that he's not the guy. I think that we can, as Saints fans, be encouraged in what we see in Tyler Shuck, and I do think that we have a future in him. And at least we have seemed to have solved the quarterback question that we've had. I would like to see Tyler Shuck get a full off season as well into the program and get a full camp and knowing that he's the guy, and let's see what he can do next year and see if he can build on this momentum that we've had. Obviously, right now, with our record sitting at 6-10, currently as I'm recording this, before this upcoming Sunday in week 18, this season is lost. We've been eliminated. So right now, you're looking at what draft pick do we have, and I'll talk about that in a moment in our future. But I do want to highlight that I will stand on this podcast and I will say that I'm wrong. If you go into the archives, of course, I was tough on the kid. I didn't think that drafting a 25-year-old out of college would have been successful, and which I've been proven to be wrong. I think that's been one of his strengths. I think as a rookie, to come in with his poise and with his maturity, I think that has been to his advantage, and it shows on the field and the reads that he make. I was wrong. If you want to go back into the previous episodes, I was absolutely wrong. I thought that we should have took Shador Sanders, which I'm not out on Shador yet, but I think that us drafting Tyler Shuck, a guy that is 6'5", solid 6'5", I think that 219. I think that that's he has the stature of a great quarterback. I see why we drafted him now. I see why NFL teams have given him an evaluation, and so far he has worked out. I am convinced that we have something in him. I'm not ready to say that he's our franchise yet, but I will say I like what I saw against the Tennessee Titans with us being down and him being able to lead us back down by 13 to leading us to ultimately winning the game. The previous week he had a late drive as well that he led that I was impressed with. For the last 2 weeks, I have been buying the hype. I think that we have something in him, and I think that that is what we need, and that's what we can need to continue to grow. Now, we asked a question about now that we know that we have that quarterback question, what is on my wish list as far as what do I want to see as far as what the New Orleans Saints and their approach of this offseason? First of all, I want to get this out the way. Mickey Loomis is not going anywhere. Now, if you want to also go back to previous episodes, I've been highly critical of him. When you talk about Drew Brees, I think we really mishandled life after Drew Brees, in what direction we could go, and I think that we actually wasted a window just not having an answer for life after Drew Brees. Drew Brees was great, but we knew he couldn't play forever. The man played 20 seasons, and we had no feasible plan for him after. I'll mention a couple other things as Cam Jordan, as he's continuing to age, all-time Saint great. Maybe another NFL Hall of Famer when it's all said and done. But what I'll say is that Cam Jordan got an extension last year at the tail end of his career, which I think was a bad decision. As I'm sitting here today, you probably won't find much more bigger fans of Alvin Kamara than myself. And I really think that we mishandled it when we extended Alvin Kamara. I do think that prior to Alvin Kamara telling us how much he wanted to stay in New Orleans, I do think that we had to reconsider. However, prior to that, I think that Alvin Kamara deserved to be on a true contender, and you could have helped that by maybe trading him with what value he has left and being able to get some assets in return and trying to get younger and getting picks because we know that this draft is going to be pivotal going forward. This all happened under Mickey Loomis's watch. And I know the New Orleans Saints fans that are listening to me now are NFL fans could mention other examples of where Mickey Loomis has mishandled a lot of personnel decisions and a lot of franchise decisions under his watch. So I think that Mickey Loomis is going to stay in place. And I faced that and I digested that. Saints fans, it's no secret. We have digested that. What do the Saints need to do going forward if we want to continue building on the momentum? The biggest hole in our franchise was figuring out the quarterback situation and what we could do to be better there. We've got that out the way. Okay. Tyler Shuck is, we want to evaluate him and see if he can be the guy in the franchise. Okay. So the next thing, a couple of things. Alvin Kamara, he's aging out. He had another knee injury here. At his age, knee injuries do not do well or bode well. You may be looking at the tail end of him being able to be as productive and explosive, and which you could kind of see this season. He's not as explosive as he's been in past years, which is rightfully so. He's aged out. Another NFL and Saints great. But we have to look at this running back class, and I think we have to evaluate it. Right now, we're projected to have the eighth pick as I'm recording this today, okay, before week 18. So I think you really have to look at whether you want to go the running back route. I think you do have to take best available. There's so many holes on this team. Okay. You did a great job of drafting Sanker. I really like Jonas Sanker. I really like Quincy Riley. So we've done some good work in the secondary. And I think that you could add on that. But I think that you drafted Kelvin Banks, who's proven to be a really good offensive lineman. I think he'll only continue to get better. The tackle out of University of Texas. So I think you really have to look at that line and see if you can add on to that offensive line. Because I think outside of him, I'm still annoyed at all of the penalties that we've been able to accrue over the season. It seems like there's a lot of undiscipline. I don't know if it's due to talent or whether or not. I would love to see an offensive line. Nothing's worse than protecting your quarterback. But I would really like to see us go get a running back. I like Devin Neal a little bit, but I'm not sure that you would say that he's gonna be the guy. But I think you got to get a running back. You got to get another option. I would love for us to get is a wide receiver. Chris Olave has proven that he could be a fringe wide receiver one. But what if you got another weapon to complement him? I do understand Vele has a very a very good connection with Tyler Shuck. But I would like to see a talented wide receiver, and they got some in this class that we could target. So if I'm looking at this offseason, you got the quarterback position pretty much solidified in a direction. So I think in this draft, it's going to be really important that we really look at this roster and see where we can pick some holes and get the best available. But I would like running back and a wide receiver. Let's get some offensive weapons around Shuck and see if he can slice and dice next year. So as New Orleans Saints fans, we should be encouraged going into next season. It does seem like we do have a direction. I'm not saying that we're going to make the playoffs next year, but I think that needless to say, the hole that we have put ourselves in under Mickey Loomis, it seems like you might see a glimmer of light coming at the end of the tunnel, and we'll see how the Saints going forward. Well, NFL fans, we have made it to week 18. The season finale is on the books, and we have three key matchups that I'll be keeping my eye out on, and I'll be giving my predictions on and what I see. The first one we'll start off with is the Panthers versus the Bucks in the NFC South, battle for the NFC South, which is another reason why I think the NFL in New Orleans Saints will have a good chance at turning this thing around quicker than most because we're in a week division. Let's be real about it with the Bucks and the Panthers. I do understand that the Bucks was expected to run away with this division just because prior to the season beginning, they had so much talent. And honestly, with the Panthers, I'm quite surprised under Coach Canales that they are at this point in the season. They had a lot of questions about Bryce Young, which was benched through the course of last season. They walked into this season. He showed some improvement at the end of last season and has shown that he may be their guy. So Bryce Young has not played horrible this year. I wouldn't say that he's the reason why they're in the position that they're in, but I do think that he's played well enough for them to be in the position that they're in. But that defense is very, very solid. And I think that the Bucks and the Panthers, if this game was in Charlotte, I think that the Panthers would have a shot. The Bucks are coming in at 3.5 favorites as I'm recording this now, and I gotta take the Bucks here. I'm not gonna take. I'm gonna get behind Baker. I don't think Baker has played well this season as he has last season. But I think Baker does enough, and I think that they have enough offensive talent to beat this Panthers team. But this Panthers team has been very scrappy. They've had some big wins this season, and as they fight for a division championship, I think that they will have some fight in them. But right now, I'm gonna go with the Bucks here, and I think that they'll close it out. And ultimately, I think that they'll lock in their playoff spot going into the season. The second matchup that's very interesting going into week 18 and has heavy playoff implications is the Seattle Hawks and the 49ers will meet in San Francisco, well, Santa Clara. They go out of San Francisco 49ers, but they're in Santa Clara, like almost an hour away. But that never mind. That's not the point. But here they are, and they're fighting for that number one seed in the NFC. So who would ever thought that these two teams would be in this position? The 49ers have had their share of injuries as well on their side, as well as the Seahawks. But here the Seahawks are, Sam Darnold, which came in this season highly motivated by after being kicked to the curve by the Minnesota Vikings, and that's not working out too well for them. But here he is, finds his team an opportunity to get that number one seed and to buy an extra week of rest as we head into the playoffs, which is pivotal when you're wrapping up the season to get some rest, to get your starters back to as close as 100% as they can, as we know that no one's 100% in the NFL at this point of the season. My prediction here, I mean, you got the Seahawks coming in as 1.5 point favorites. I do think that the 49ers are going to take this game. And that the reason why I say that is I look at Brock Purdy and, you even look at that game against the Bears last week. Brock Purdy, looked darn good. And ever since he's come back from this injury, he's been a man on a mission. So I like him being in this position. I like that their defense is still intact despite them not having Fred Warner. But that man, Christian McCaffrey, is really a dog. And I think they'll ride him into the playoffs here. I'm going to go ahead and take the 49ers here, getting a win at home, understanding that they have a real shot to make a run. But I'm interested to see. I'll definitely be watching this one. We'll see how Sam Darnold plays in this position. We know that we've seen Brock Purdy get some experience in big games. I do think that it will come down to his arm, and it will come down to the Seahawks' ability to be able to scheme against Christian McCaffrey. If they aren't able to contain him and let him have a field day, it's going to be a long day for him. But I think ultimately, I think that the 49ers will lock in that first seed and get some extra rest and get that ever so important first round bye. And then lastly, we got the Sunday night matchup. If you want to check my previous episodes with the Steelers versus the Baltimore Ravens. Now, the Steelers are coming in at 3.5 favorites here as I'm recording this, and the Steelers will be at home. So it will be an interesting game here. Aaron Rodgers took a step back last week, but prior to him playing the Browns, up until that point, he was playing lights out and he kind of looked like himself, and that fizzled out last week against Cleveland. Anybody that fizzled out against Myles Garrett. However, I do think that the Ravens have a couple questions. You have a couple questions surrounding this game, which is probably be the game of the night. I definitely will be excited about it. But there are questions around Lamar Jackson's health. We don't know if he's going to play. So I think it's very important. You don't know if he's going to play. I don't know if it's more so the Ravens trying to hide their hand. It was reported that he did practice Wednesday. So you got to think that he is trending towards playing. But he didn't play last week. So maybe they were saving him for this week if they was able to squeak out a win, in which they were able to, which was a surprising win that they got this past week. However, here we are. So I think that if that question is not answered, I think at this point when I'm recording this, I have to lean towards the Steelers. I hate to do that, but if I don't know if Lamar is going to play and if he doesn't play, and if there's questions around him playing, you got to think that he's not 100%, even if he does play. And it's being reported it's some sort of back injury, and his explosiveness is everything. Now, I do understand you do have that King Henry who had an all-time great rushing performance against the Green Bay Packers, basically rushed 36 times, the most in his career, and had over 200 plus rushing yards. I do understand that they could ride him into the playoffs, but I think that Aaron Rodgers and just knowing his experience, I think that I have to lean towards that. And against an unhealthy Lamar Jackson, because even if he does play, he's not going to be explosive, and he's not going to be a threat with his legs to make you think. So I got to lean towards the Steelers here. They're at home. The place is going to be rocking. I know that the Steelers are very, very excited about where their team is, and I think that when you're going into this game, I think the playoff starts now, and I have to lean towards the experience. Now, if you listen to my previous episode, the Steelers was one of the teams that I said could make a run into the playoffs, and if they are able to get in the playoffs, we could see what Aaron Rodgers is able to do and make one last run. So I got to think that the Steelers is going to do what they have to do to win this game. I think that they're in a position that they want to be in. Just going against a hobbled Lamar Jackson in this situation. I think you gotta lean towards the Steelers here, and we'll see how it plays out. Let me know in the comments who you think will win this game. I'm excited to hear your thoughts from the Steelers fans or the Ravens fan, or you just a general NFL fan. Let me know who you think is gonna win this game. But I'm about to get on out of here. I appreciate you for rocking with me this long. Again, my name is Rob. I am part of the Opinionated Benchwarmers. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on wherever you like to listen to your podcast at. Make sure that you are subscribed to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. That way you're notified when we're recording or when we release our episodes. As well, make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. That's how you can get the content and the visuals that we release week in and week out. I'm out of here. I'm about to go enjoy some football. Until next time, I'm out of here. Peace, guys.